The 2019-2020 AS Roma Blue kit is extremely hard to find nowadays and is a strong contender for being one of the most desired, if not the most desired, Roma kit of the last 20 years. Before we get into the details of the shirt, an interesting backstory to this atypical blue kit is that due to UEFA regulations saying that a kit must not have more than 2 club logos on the jersey, AS Roma had to make a slight change to this shirt worn in Europa League games. If we look at the design of the first shirt and the first version that was then used primarily domestically, there's a pattern of spheres with 2 different logos inside of them. Some spheres, as you can see, have the ASR logos, and then the other ones have the wolf. So when you include the actual badge on the shirt, that's a total of 3 logos on the shirt, thus breaking UEFA regulations of allowing a maximum of 2. The club was then forced to make the decision to sacrifice the ASR spheres for Europa League games. So other than the shirts used in a game against Istanbul Başakşehir, the Europa League version of these shirts only had spheres with the wolf badge inside of it. It still looks great, but if you're wondering why one of my blue shirts only had wolf spheres whereas the other one has both the ASR and wolf, well then now you know. Onto the details, because if you are in the market for this kit, this section of the video will help me show you as many details as I'm aware of as possible so you can do your best to sift through any overpriced counterfeits online, because this kit is so hard to find that even if you find one, it's likely that it'll either be extremely overpriced or fake. First things first, being a Nike kit, there are 2 versions: the stadium cheaper version and the more expensive player version. I'm not sure if match versions of these kits were sold officially from AS Roma and Nike, but hold that thought because I'll discuss it more later. The difference between a player version and a stadium version lies in the quality of the entire shirt and various different features. The player version is glossier, almost shinier, the fit is tighter, and the material is more susceptible to being see-through in some cases. The badge is higher in quality and also has a shine to it, and it's also heat pressed onto the shirt. The Nike logo on the chest is also heat pressed, and finally the Nike jersey code that you can find at the front and bottom of the kit is shown as such, and it has gold colored letters. The stadium version is still beautiful in its own right, but clearly it isn't as glossy, as shiny as the player version, and it has a looser fit. The badge is standard with no gloss or any shine to it, and alongside the Nike logo on the chest, they're both now stitched as opposed to being heat pressed like they were in the player version. Also, the Nike jersey code in the standard, stadium, replica, whatever you want to call it version is in silver colored letters, not gold. For both versions, make sure to always ask for pictures of the sizing info on the inside of the neck. If it says made in Thailand, bear in mind it's 100,000% fake. No AS Roma Nike shirts were ever made in Thailand. This model specifically was always made in Indonesia. Other models from other seasons were sometimes also made in Bangladesh. Obviously, just because the shirt may say made in Indonesia, it doesn't put the kit in the clear just yet. So for these Nike kits, you'll also want to ask for a picture of the Nike codes on the inside. What I usually do is type this code specifically in Google, and if I see reliable sources come back to me that used to sell this exact kit, then I know I'm in the clear. Fakes usually have completely different kits pop up in your searches when you put the code, but feel free to let me know in the comments down below if I missed any information that you should be aware of when using the Nike code in your Google searches. Now I am forced to go back to the point about player versions versus stadium versions, and pay attention because this is important. Now, even though my player versions of this kit are legit, the code method does not work in my case. I'm not sure whether or not match versions were sold officially because at the time I couldn't buy one. So how do I then have a player version myself? The answer is that I bought this from a personal source of mine that was able to get these shirts directly from the Roma Training Center when they had these shirts in excess. That also explains why I have the player version kits with the characteristics that were imposed by UEFA with only the wolf badge modification on them. Such kits would have never been sold by stores, as again, they were only made to abide to UEFA regulations for the team and not for commercial purposes. If anyone, however, did manage to get a player version directly from the Roma store, feel free to let me know down below in the comments, as I'd definitely be able to know more for sure, but I've never seen one online. It wasn't uncommon for Nike to not have every single Roma kit have both the player version and the stadium sold officially. Sometimes they would only just make the stadium version. That being said, it's worth mentioning that these shirts that come from the facilities have a characteristic of heat press tags on the inside as such. These can still be faked, of course, but it's still worth knowing about. Nonetheless, the shirt is such a high quality that even though you can't use the code method, you should still be able to see from pictures and details whether it's legit or not. Now, after getting through the headache that is this stadium versus player version drama, the last thing I want to cover is the name sets. Unfortunately, like I said, I was not able to get these kits at the time, so I won't know until someone who did can let me know, maybe through pictures or something. But I do believe the name sets for these kits were slightly more yellow than the name sets used in the same season on the home kit. This becomes more apparent when I look at pictures of official match-worn jerseys and I compare the name set to the ones of the home shirts. Lighting can make a difference, of course, and perhaps I'm crazy, which I definitely am when it comes to shirts, but to me it looks like the home kit name set is more orange than yellow, and the blue kit name set is more yellow than orange. The player version kit I have with Dzeko on the back is legit. The shirt is legit, but I do think that the person who had this kit chose to apply the home kit Dzeko name set on the back, as it doesn't look quite yellow enough. It's a minor detail that kind of bothers me, but considering how hard these are to find, I still felt like it was worth picking this one up, considering I may never find a perfect one anyways. So if you do care about as minute of a detail as that, keep that in mind, bear that in mind, because you might be posed with a decision. Do I buy one with the fake name set, or do I just let it go? Since it's very likely that a lot of the times, if you do even happen to find one online that's legit, a lot of the time they're going to be sold with the home kit name sets that were applied later on to raise the value of the actual shirt. That's going to be all for today about this wonderful kit. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope the info is useful if you do start keeping an eye out for this kit. Until next time, Forza Roma.